NRL 2023 preliminary final. New Zealand Warriors up against the Broncos. Saturday night, live from Suncorp. Let's take a look how this might play out. Hey team, welcome back into the Warriorholic. Damn, who'd have thought, eh? 2 weeks to go in the NRL 2023 season and the Warriors are still in amongst it. Top four, ended up being the top four in the final, 2 games of the season here. New Zealand Warriors up against the Broncos and the Storm up against the Panthers. Everyone seems to think that it's going to be the Panthers and the Broncos in the finals, but who knows, when it gets to this time of year, anything can happen. So first up, let's take a quick look at the Broncos from my perspective. Look, I think we expected them to go a lot deeper last year with the start of the season that they had. Probably, first year in, for a lot of those guys, the experience of going through state of origin, the fatigue was probably a little bit hard to handle towards the end there. That might be why they dropped off, but they definitely had the players to do it. I'm sure they learned from it last year, so they've proven that they go one step further this year into the finals, making the top 2. A lot of people have said, and I tend to agree with them, the Broncos and the Panthers have been the outstanding teams of 2023 so far. Their forward against have been better. They won more games than the other teams, obviously, to finish in the top 2 there. But just the standard of play has been a lot more consistent. Both teams probably have the most X factor. The Storm traditionally had it, but have lost a few players. So I think they clearly justified their second place finish. It was a really close battle actually with the Panthers to get that minor premiership, come down to that last game of the year. So not too many people other than the hardcore Warriors fans probably think we can win. I'm sure a lot would love us to win, but the average pundit out there is probably thinking that the Broncos are a shoo-in. If you look at their lineup, for me personally, it's Adam Reynolds is the biggest key. I know they got guys like Walsh here and Payne Haas and the like, but for me, Reynolds' ability to control the game, his kicking game, we saw what he did to the Storm a couple of weeks back. So if he fires, they fire. If anything happened to him, I think they're in big trouble. And that probably, a lot of people would say that Walsh is their most important player, but for me, without Reynolds controlling the game, it makes it a lot more difficult for Reece Walsh to do his magic. So for me, he's the key for them, but followed closely by Reece Walsh there, that X factor, that speed at the back. I think it's 22 try assists he's had playing at fullback there. Very similar to Kalen Ponga, but probably a bit more speed across the ground and probably in better form over the whole of the 2023 season. Then you've got the likes of Payne Haas, Patrick Carrigan. Big meters up the middle there, really fast across the ground, their whole full pack, play with aggression. In fact, speed across the whole park for them. Their backs, their outside edges, lightly and quick. So it's really going to be up to us to really try and play as a team and control them. But, every reason for Broncos fans to be confident going into this. But I'm sure the New Zealand Warriors, off the back of that win against the Knights, will be buoyed. We've got our best team possible on the field. The question is, they get the week off. They're a little bit more fresh than us. We're coming off the back of a pretty hard win there. The excitement, the emotion of playing in front of that crowd. Can they replicate that over there in, the hostile environment of Suncorp? I'm pretty sure there'll be a fair amount of Kiwis there. Depends how many tickets they're able to get their hands on, but they'll sure make a noise, but definitely a different environment when you're playing away. For us, I think the key is, again, Shaun Johnson. If he can match Adam Reynolds and if not beat him, get that kicking game going, put those guys like Walsh and Cobbo right back into their corners, get up that line speed, keep them on there, like fighting off their line until they get frustrated, there's a good chance we can do this. I think Wade Egan is another key point of difference for us is ruck manipulation. Well, I think Billy Walters is a really underappreciated sort of player for them this year. I think he's really stood up and probably exceeded a lot of people's expectations at hooker. Being a bit later in his career, being a bit of a journeyman, I think playing under his old man has really done him well. I've done him a load of good, but I think Egan, his ruck manipulation is right up there with the best in the game. I think Chance, very different to Reece Walsh at the back there, but his ability to take those hard carries, do a lot of the work for the forwards, supported by Dallin and Montoya on the wings there, that'll hopefully give our forwards that extra little bit of energy to overcome the fatigue from last week and be able to compete with these guys coming off the back of the bye. So another point we can consider here is the fact that while the Broncos have got a lot of origin stars and international players, they don't have a lot of players who have actually played in a preliminary final before. In fact, I think it might only be Reynolds, whereas we've got CNK, AFB, Walker, SJ, Tohu Harris. So we've got the experience at this deep part of the season. And the second part is the coaches. Kevin Walters has played in a lot of grand finals as a player. This is his first time getting to a preliminary final as a coach, whereas Webby's coming off the back of back-to-back titles with the Panthers there. So he knows how to get a team up for this. That said, it's all theory. Like they say, you've got a game plan until you get punched in the face. So there's things that you can look for and against for both teams. Both clubs' fans will think that their team's got a little bit of an edge. Who knows? I'm not going to sit here and claim we're going to kick their asses. I'm not that arrogant, because they've proven themselves throughout the whole of 2023. But I genuinely believe we've got a chance. I don't believe that the Broncos will be taking this as lightly as their fans do. So it could go either way. I just hope it's a really fun, competitive game that's decided by the players on the ground, not by the ref and not by injuries. Would I take it if they lost Walsh and Reynolds halfway through the game and we ended up winning it? Yeah, I'd take it, but it still would feel a little bit hollow. So I'm hoping that the players get to decide the game. Rightio, let's take a bit of a breakdown here of how the two teams have gone over the years. And this kind of surprised me. 42 games, they've won 21 and we've won 20. Really even. For some reason, I kind of felt like they would have been a bit more dominant over us over the years, because so many memories of Broncos teams kicking my team's asses back in the the 90s and the early 2000s, and the one draw there. So very even history with the two teams there. Wins this season, 18 from 23 for the Broncos. They were in second at the end of the year. We had 16 from 23. We ended up in fourth. For and against, 617 for, 393 against for a plus 224 for them. That's outstanding. We're 562, 4 and 4, 14 against for a plus 148. Looks a bit better on an average here. They're plus 9 at 26, 4 and 17 against. We're 24, 4 and 18 against on a plus 6. The 3 points different there. Not huge. But if we look at the recent form, they're 4 from 5, we're 3 from 5. They've had some massive scores there. Now we're the best of a 54-10 win over the Eels there. Our biggest win 40-10 over the Knights. So they've got a lot of points in them. But I think we've been defending relatively well. So that's going to be key for us. It's can we control their X factor and their the fact they can score a lot of long-range tries. I really rate us to defend our line when we're on the line, but it's just getting that third or fourth play, skip play to Walsh, and he gets in a bit of space there, can cause havoc, because we know we've got a bit of pace, and we don't really have the fastest back three in the comp there. So anyway, 5 game totals: 161 for, 92 against for them for a plus 69. Us we're still on a minus there after those couple of rough games against the Panthers and the Dolphins. 103 for, 104 against for a plus 1, but shit, doesn't really mean anything given the couple of situations we have with SJ out and resting players and so forth. But average for them 32-18 with a plus 14, and us 20-21. So some people say the stats don't lie, but I think last week's probably a fairer reflection of what our team's got in us if we can step up. But again, another reason for them to be a little bit cocky going into this. Completion rates: 77 for them, 78 for us. It's funny, isn't it? Every week over the past few weeks, you see, regardless of where the teams are, sort of in the top 8, they've all got a very similar completion rate there. Tackle efficiency, 86.6 for them, 88.1 for us, so slightly better. Tries, 116 in second for them, 108 for us in 6th. Tackle breaks, what have we got there? 1,015 for them in 3rd, 864 for us in 7th. And line breaks there, 144 in 3rd for them, 142 for us in 4th, almost nothing in that. Missed tackles, 784 for them, 854 for us. I haven't put a rating in there because I think kind of gets messed up there when you're counting the missed tackles we've had in the finals versus teams who didn't play in the finals there. So now, as you can see, the stats, interestingly, a little bit closer than they were between us and the Knights. The Knights were really leading the way in tries and line breaks, tackle breaks, quite a way ahead of us in some of the stats there. So Didn't prove to be the case that it went their way on the weekend, so who knows how this plays out this weekend. But interesting to take a look at that and see that they've definitely got some points in them, definitely got a line break in them. Next up, we've got CNK up against Walsh. Two very different players, similar to what I said last week. You've got the attacking flair, the X factor, the energy, versus the guy who just absolutely grinds his ass into the ground doing all the hard work. Very, very solid there in CNK. So 21 games apiece, 182 metres on average for Chance, 299 on the weekend there, 153 for Walsh. Tackle efficiency, this is a bit of a red flag for them. 86 for Chance and only 69 for Walsh, so he's got a bit of a missed tackle in him. Tackle breaks 87 versus 113. Line breaks 7 versus 18. Try assist 6 versus 22, so Walsh has definitely got a try assist in him. I think we've seen Chance start to contribute a bit more in that towards the end of the season, but he wasn't so involved in the attack earlier on, so that sort of indicates why that stat's so different. 6 tries to Chance versus 9 to Walsh. So attacking wise, you can't question the flair from Walsh. As far as taking the pressure off our forwards, grinding it out, being that guy that just shows the way with effort and to get your teams up behind him, I think that's where CNK stands out. CNK's worst game is so close to his best game. So, I expect him to deliver much and muchness. If we can frustrate Walsh, maybe get him to lose his mind a little bit, that may go in our favour. But we've seen him in Origin this year just step up and really thrive on the pressure of the environment in the moment, particularly playing at home. So it's pretty hard to go past him as someone who might get it up out of this matchup. Montoya versus Arthurs. This is a bit of a quick throw together, so I'm presuming they're actually playing on the same side of the field here. But Montoya with 25 games versus Arthurs with 18. 149 average running metres versus just the 95. Maybe a reflection that Arthurs plays in the centre a bit, so you don't quite get as many metres off in there. 68% tackle efficiency versus 85. But Montoya did tackle at 100% in the weekend up against a pretty quick outside backs here, so I expect him to be ready to go this week as well. Tackle breaks 83 versus 35. It's a good sign, but a few more games up his sleeve for Montoya there. Line breaks 16 versus 14, 9 versus 8. Arthurs is a solid player. I enjoyed him playing for us on loan, during COVID times there. Yeah, but I doubt very much whether he'll be one of the guys for the Broncos who really decides the game for them. Often when you say that, it could come back to bite you. But I really need Montoya to step up and maintain that level he set last week. Try and avoid those little errors. He had a couple in his game there. But I think his work hitting the ball back on those kick returns will definitely be a key contributor for us and getting our momentum going. So I'll give him the slight edge on that. Dallin up against Cobbo. I'm a massive Cobbo fan, actually. I really like him. He's such a likeable character. He's one of those guys who seems to be so casual and having so much fun about what he does. You underestimate how much skill and power and speed he's actually got because he's a really big boy. 18 games for Dallin versus 22 for Cobbo there. Average running meters 150 versus 113, which surprised me because Cobbo is a big boy, but probably a reflection when they don't use their outside backs to do the first 3 or 4 hit-ups like we do. Tackle efficiency 73, 71, much of a muchness. Tackle breaks 66 versus 102. Line breaks 21 versus 18 and tries 21 versus 20. A couple of these stats I've actually, like the tries and the line breaks and stuff. Sorry guys, I haven't updated that part since last week. I was in a bit of a rush to get this prepared, so I had a bit of a guess as to what the teams were and put some of these stats on based on last week. So not 100% accurate, but they will give you an idea of how things have gone throughout the season. So, look, I think Dallin's having the season of his career. There's no reason he can't match, if not exceed, Cobbo here. I think he'll contribute more of the hard yards there. Cobbo, if he just happens to have one of those games where everything clicks for him, he could be a real game decider for them. But I'm hoping we shut him down, we make him do a lot of hard work and tire him out a little bit because he's not the fittest winger in the comp there. I'm going to give a slight edge to my man Dallin. Adam Pompey up against Gatoni Stags. So I'm pretty sure these two guys are going to match up. I was in a rush, as I said, to get this together, so I'm assuming they're on the same side there. Adam on the left and Stags on the right. 25 games versus 24. Average running meters 104 versus 132. Both contribute a lot there as far as meters gained. Tackle efficiency 86 versus 82. Again, I've heard a lot of people in the past talk about Stags not being state of origin material because of his defence. I don't think of too many occasions that stand out for him, but it's just something that's playing in the back of my mind here, wondering if he's, if you get him in the right way, you might be able to beat him in a tackle break there. We know Pompey's got that great little last minute step, but likewise that fend of Stags is probably one of the top 2 or 3 in the comp, so Pompey's going to have to be on his game there. Line breaks 9 versus 14, try assist 9 versus 7, 5 tries versus 13. I think, like we've seen, Pompey's continued to improve his craft. He's becoming a genuine, first choice, first grade centre up against a guy who I really like, and I would have liked to seen him, get a bit more of a shot there at Origin. He's quality enough to play international footy given the opportunity. So you've got the younger up and comer versus the established guy. But Pompey, like I said, he hasn't been dominated by too many of the top class centres in the comp this year, and I think alternatively he's dominated a bunch of them. So I rate him to use his size here to hopefully control Stags there, get that partnership right on the edge here with Ford and Montoya to make sure that Stags doesn't go setting up too many bloody line breaks and try assists there for his outside men. Rocco Berry up against Farnworth. Look, I'm a big Farnworth fan as well, actually. Before we started to develop our centres, there's a guy I was hoping we'd kind of recruit. But again, I'm a huge Rocco Berry fan. I think he proved again. He went up a level against the Knights, up against a big guy there, and Bradman Best had not too much trouble controlling him. Farnsworth is a taller, lanky guy. He's pretty quick. But I think we've seen Rocco handle the speed of guys like Albert Kelly and the big rangy centres. So I don't expect him to be overwhelmed by this. I expect him to be able to hold his own. I expect him to continue to deliver on his kick chase here to put pressure on them. So 14 games versus 24, so Farnsworth proven pretty durable this year. Average running meters of 70 versus 170, so 100 difference here like we saw from last week. But, didn't prove too much difference there in the game. 28 tackle breaks versus 121. It's a pretty good effort from big Herbie there. Line breaks 3 versus 13. Try assist 8 versus 3. 2 tries versus 13. So we can see that they've got a lot of attack revolving around their centres, just like the Knights had last week. We were able to shut it down. I think we're really going to have to work hard with our edge forwards and our centres here to shut these two down, and Stags and Farnsworth, because they've both got a point in them. But I do hear, Broncos fans every now and then complain about Herbie being a bit of a ball hog, hence he doesn't have as many try assists as Stag does. So come on, Rocco, step up, put one over this fella here, and I think that will have a big contribution into how well their backs go. Tamati Martin up against Mann. I think Mann's had a really good season all in all, particularly in games where Reynolds wasn't able to play. He did a pretty good job there, but I like the progression of Tamati Martin. I think he showed his fitness was back last week. I think he started to unlock that left-hand side. We saw Montoya go in and get that nice try in the corner there. I'd like to see him get our attack be a little bit more left focused rather than just right-hand edge focused there. To give a little bit of variety. We saw SJ drifting over to the left as well to help Tamati Martin. So it'll be a really interesting matchup here, but I heard them talking about on the radio on SEN about how Mann is a one-shoulder tackler, so I think it's the outside shoulder he's really comfortable with, but not on the inside. So getting guys changing the angle, coming back on his inside might be an opportunity for us, particularly when we're getting close to that line, when we're looking for those tries like we saw from AFB on the weekend there. Plenty of points up the middle for us guys, so there'll be a lot of traffic coming at Man. I see his, I think it's his left knee was really heavy. Oh, left knee? Yeah, I think it's left or right. One of the two. He's only got 2 to choose from. Really heavily strapped, so it'll be interesting to see how he's holding up. 7 games, like I said, versus 23. Average running 49 versus 96. That's a lot of metres there running at 5'8". Tackle efficiency 91 versus 79, so a bit of a strength there for Te Maire Martin. Try assist 2 versus 9, but what's that, a third of the game, so very similar per game ratio there. Line break 6 versus 9, so probably a better per line break assist. Better per game ratio there for Te Maire Martin. 0 tries versus 14, so it's a lot of tries for a 5'8" actually there from Man. So look, solid player, but I rate the experience of Te Maire Martin to at least match him, if not slightly get ahead of him. Here is one of the few positions that I think we do have a bit of an advantage in. Man, what a mouth-watering battle this is. I think Adam Reynolds is going to be really fired up to prove, all the talks have been about SJ being the Dally M halfback of the year, and he's been getting so many accolades, just got voted there as the halfback for the Players Association, voted by the players Team of the Year. I'm pretty sure Reynolds is the kind of guy who will come out with a chip on his shoulder and wanting to step up. Interestingly, they're both carrying slight calf niggle, so it'd be interesting to see how Reynolds holds up. 23 games versus 21, average kicking 516 versus 423, which is surprising. Reynolds definitely has a decent long kicking game on. He's definitely got that floating bomb we're going to have to be careful of. But SJ was a bit of a, he was so clinical against the Knights, and we really need to see that again. I want us to see us focusing on that right-hand edge kick rather than putting it down the middle or down the left-hand side there. Down our right-hand side, get Rocco and Dallin right up there and putting pressure on them. But short game as well. SJ's got one of the most repeat sets in the comp, but I think Reynolds is right up there. So try assist 27 versus 19, line break assist 24 versus 16, 8 tries versus 5. So I think it's probably it's very hard to separate them on their day. If they both play well, it'd be really interesting to see how that battle plays out. Whichever one of them has the bigger game will probably decide it for me. If SJ can step up to the same level he delivered last week, there's no reason he can't match him. 50-50. I'm not going to sit here and claim just because I'm biased that I think SJ is better, because I do really rate Reynolds as probably, along with Cleary, the 3 best halfbacks in the game, though DCE is not bad either. But it just goes to show all of the best halfbacks at the moment other than Cleary are in their 30s, which is why I think you've got to be patient for us, like with guys like Volkman and that, because there's not too many guys like Cleary who are coming out and dominating at this level in the early 20s. So great matchup to be watching out for there. I've switched this up because if you put them number for number, they're not directly matching. But for me, this is one of the most exciting parts of this game. We didn't get to see it earlier in the season. Adam Fanor-Blake up against Payne Haas. They both went shot for shot as far as stats went all season. I think they will both be the Dally M props of the year. It'd be a massive have if they're not. Payne Haas is arguably one of the biggest rivals for SJ for the Dally M, which I'm not 100% convinced of, because both him and Walsh and obviously Reynolds have such a big impact on their game, whereas SJ has such a huge impact on the outcome of our games when he's playing and we win. So curious to see what happens there. Average running meters 175 versus 187. It's not many guys this year have actually put on more running meters than AFB, but we've seen them well up over 200 meters at times. Post-contact meters 60 versus 72, another stat that AFB doesn't often lose. Tackle efficiency 97.6 versus 98, identical. Tackle break 70 versus 105, and I think that's a difference in their running style. Payne Haas runs a lot faster, looks to bust tackles to find that gap, free up the arms for an offload, whereas AFB's that guy kind of sucks in 3 or 4 defenders, still manages to work his way forward there and hopefully get a quick play of the ball away that gives you a bit of space out wide. 8 tries versus 1, which surprises me that Payne's only got the 1 there. You'd think with his explosive power he'd have a few more under the post, but actually AFB with 9 there, because I didn't count the one that he got on the weekend. So hopefully that continues on the weekend. We know we've got a lot of points in us up the middle, whereas they've got a lot of tries out wide. I'm not going to try and call one way or the other on this. I like them both. I think they're both outstanding. Could you imagine ever having a team of both in a minute? That would be bloody scary. But again, whoever can get that, win that middle there between these two will go a long way to setting the platform for the game. This one surprised me. Mitch Barnett continues to exceed the guys he's coming up with against who are genuine props with his numbers. Only the 13 games versus 21 for Flegler, but average running meters of 136 versus 108. Post-contact meters 49.5 versus 38. Tackle efficiency 91 versus 92. Tackle breaks 22 versus 43. 2 tries apiece. So as far as running meters and post-contact meters goes, Barnett delivers as a prop. But I think you see in these big games like we've seen in State of Origin, like Flegler's just one of those guys who just thrives on the pressure. So this is going to be a really interesting battle between those two. They've both got a short fuse. They're both very aggressive. I hope our man Barnett, which he has done for the most part this year, has been able to control his aggression, keep those tackles down below the throat. We don't need any sin bins, and we want to eliminate those penalties. But good to try and wind Flegler up and see if we can put him off his game and maybe get him 10 in the bin. So again, these two here will be a really clear indicator as to who wins the middle and who gets the momentum in the game. Too tough to call for me, and I'm sure all the Broncos will be jumping all over Flegler. But as I said, look at the numbers there. Mitch Barnett makes his meters, and he makes some bloody big hits. So I don't think it'd be to be taken too lightly. One of the small areas that I do think we've got a bit of an edge in here is Wade Egan up against Billy Walters. I like Billy Walters. He's another player that I thought would have been interesting to get the Warriors when he was still at the Tigers there. But it's great to see him playing with his dad and, really flourishing under him. 20 games versus 24. Average running meters 52 versus 46. Bugger all in that. 92 versus 90 tackle efficiency. Try assist 5 versus 2. Line break assist 9 versus 3. 6 tries versus 4. So I think Walters is a very solid player, and I think he's developed into a genuine hooker rather than half who's transferred to the hooker role there or a utility. But like I said, Egan's ruck manipulation, that ability to just get, he loves to run from dummy half to try and score a try, which means you've got to keep, the markers have got to be honest and keep an eye on him when you get close to the line. So when he does take that one little step towards the opposition, and his ability to put that no-look pass on the button for guys like Tohu and the like, I think you ask genuine questions, particularly down man's side there. So I'm going to give him the tick in this one. Jackson Ford against Capewell. I can't remember whether Ford actually played in the game the last time they played, but Capewell, he's a second player. I was thinking of Reynolds has definitely got finals experience, but so has Capewell. Both of those guys have got rings. So you've got the experience there. Capewell's an interesting guy. He's not huge, but he gets through a power of work. I think he's a very destructive runner. Again, steps up in the big games. 22 apiece versus 100 metres for Ford, which has really lifted recently. Interesting, only 84 for Capewell. Tackle efficiency, both around the 90% there. Tackle breaks, 53 for Jackson versus 31. He's really improved the aggression that he's hitting the line with. He's running some good lines and getting through those lines there. So 8 line breaks versus 9 there. So it's interesting. Capewell probably finds a gap more than Ford's using his power sometimes to blast his way through. 4 tries versus 6. So I think they're both very similar players. They're both workhorses. You may not notice them as the biggest contributors in a game, but if you pull them out of there, you definitely notice it in the output. Both 80-minute players if they have to be. I'd say they probably do both play 80 minutes. So, shit. Ford probably played one of his top 2 or 3 games of the season last week. Repeats that, I think you can match him. But potentially you give Capewell a slight tick there on experience. Nia Korea up against Ricky. Battle of the Māori boys. Nia Korea, I hope his knee's right. Shit, it was scary there. I thought he was gone with an ACL or something, but came back in and played pretty well. So hopefully that's it's all taped up and stable enough for him to play at his full potential, because Ricky is a real player for the future. Shit, I hope he plays for the Kiwis. One of the real up and comers, I think, when it comes to edge back rows in the comp. So Nia Korea, second half of the season, he's got that aggression controlled, eliminated those the penalties and the sin bins and so forth. He maintains that. His experience, grand final last year, Well, I think he can slightly get the edge in this one, but shit, Ricky's fast across the ground. He's powerful. He's a tall, rangy guy. 20 games apiece, 97 running metres versus 78. So interesting, both of our edge-back rows are getting a bit more, a few more metres there compared to theirs. 93% versus 92 tackle efficiency, basically the same. Line breaks 6 versus 4. Tackle breaks 36 versus 30, nothing in that. 3 tries versus 6. So we're probably reliant on Niokore to have a big game more than they're reliant on Ricky. He's got so many other guys that are going to contribute around him, so he's just got to do his job. Whereas I think we genuinely need Niokore to step up and have one of his games of the season. You know, off the back of that knee, I really hope he can do it. Trust his experience. Control that aggression. Smash him, bro. This one here, wow, this is going to be another interesting one. Tohu Harris up against Carrigan. You know, old bull versus young bull. Both lead from the front. Both amazing work rates. Tohu, man, he's just an enigma, the way he's able to still keep going on that broken body with all the tape and the injuries. And we saw him like come down or fall down a couple of times with, you know, seemed like a sore sternum or shoulder or something. His knee's still playing up. All those broken limbs and stuff, but he was still pretty quick when he got through that line on the weekend there. But his ability to play with those soft hands, put his boys away, his ball playing ability, his ability to just keep working for 80 minutes. He lifts us. He's our, you know, he's our genuine leader. Carrigan is just a genuine impact player as well. Like looking there, what he got 21 versus 22 games, 135 metres versus 159, 94% tackle efficiency versus 95. Tackle breaks 24 versus 45. Try assist 4 versus 3. 3 tries versus 2. So very similar in a lot of their stats. But I think Carrigan's more of similar to Pass. He's a very quick, hard runner, which breaks him through tackles, whereas Tohu's like that octopus kind of guy who just sort of, he's not breaking many tackles, but he manages to get through, gets those late little offloads just before the line, those little steps and so forth. So they contribute in slightly different ways, but will both have a very similar impact for their teams. Too tough to call for me. I mean, I'm going to be biased and say Tohu because he's my man, but if I'm honest, I think this is a real, again, a 50-50 matchup that for us, Tohu and AFB lead the way. For them, Carrigan and Pass lead their way. So I hope we can match them, if not get up above them on that. Righty, looking at the benches. Dylan Walker, Jazz Tavanga, Josh Curran and Bailey Sirin. I was a bit worried about Jazz's leg. But obviously he's looking okay if he's been named there. You know, we know what our bench is. We've got Dylan coming on at 14 there, can jump into the halves or whatever he's needed, but he's best in the middle. Jazz, just that impact machine coming off that bench, that high energy, that line speed. Josh Curran again, similar, the line speed, the energy, the work rate, the ability to play in the centres, 13 on an edge. Hopefully that finger's not too bad after last week, pointing sideways. And Bailey Sirin, man, he's been one of the finds of the back half of the season for us. Again, one of his best games that he's played for us on the weekend. That try, the confidence to just like overcall Walker, go himself, go through untouched there. So his confidence will be great. Going up against Smoothie, Piakore, Hetherington and Palacia. So we've got a hooker, an edge back row, a lock and a prop. So, you know, two sort of middle forwards and an edge forward and a hooker there versus pretty similar to us, I guess. They're not the biggest bench in the world for them, similar to us. So I saw a lot of talk, do we bring in, Bunty or someone to match the forward power. But the Broncos, other than Payne Haas, they're not the biggest forward pack. They're just one of the fittest and one of the fastest. And I think that's us as well. But that week off may be a bit of a difference for them and having that home ground advantage. I think we can match them on the bench there. If Jazz is okay and Curran's okay, and they, all four of them can play to their potential, I think Dylan Walker's a point of difference there. I think he brings a little bit more than Smoothie does off the bench there. And the other three, I think, are very similar kind of players. So I'm going to call that one a 50-50. So look, if you look at all of these stats, if you look at them man for man, and I'm trying not to be too biased about this, I think we match up relatively well. there's not that many players that individually you're going to say, well, they're just outstandingly better than us. You could argue the X factor of Walsh is, there's no one else on the field like him. As good as Jazzy can be matched by Reynolds. So I think Walsh and Payne Haas, if he manages to dominate AFB like he has a lot of other packs, that will go a long way for them. But I don't envisage that being the case. I don't think AFB will necessarily dominate him back, so I think they might cancel each other out. So I'm going to simplify this by saying the Broncos have got a lot of X factor of capable of pulling shit out of their ass from anywhere on the park. We rely on a very solid, if not boring, team play where we create structured tries rather than just individual magic passes and the like. Which one of those holds up better under fatigue, under the pressure of a semi, a preliminary final? The Broncos haven't been there. They dropped off last year, so this is as newer experience for them as it is for us. I think that experience for us playing in those really tight, ground-out games over the past 5 weeks is a really good experience, whereas they've tended to either lose or smash teams. They haven't really had too many grind-outs. But again, maybe I'm searching, clutching at straws, trying to find ways to justify my confidence, because I'm not going to go in there and say, hey, look, I wouldn't say it's as much as 50-50. I'd say they do have a clear advantage, but I do believe we're more than capable of winning if we deliver at our best. So I'm calmly and quietly confident, but shit, SJ's calf better hold up. Guys like Jazz's injuries better be all good, because we're going to need all men on deck. Hopefully the fatigue's not too bad after smashing the Knights there on the weekend. It wasn't too much of a grind out. Time to sit back and ponder what may happen, reflect on what an awesome year it's been. Again, for me, this is all bonus time. It's not an acknowledgement that I think we're done with. It's just an acknowledgement that everything from here is a bonus for me, particularly after that win on the weekend. We didn't go out in straight sets. But I know our boys, they won't be thinking like that. They've got their eyes on this prize. They've got to get through this game. Let's get to the final. Then I've got to try and find a couple of grand to get on a plane and get over to Sydney to use the tickets I've already got banked. So up the mighty Warriors. Not much more I can say. Look forward to it. Get excited. Have a couple of quiet beers and just soak it all in, team. Hopefully we'll be back for another game next week. I'm all in. One more week. Let's go.